Hi everyone, this is a new video of chapter 16, Monopolistic Competition. This is a book of Gregory Mankiw, Principles of Economics, 7th edition. So basically, what we're going to talk about here is about the monopolistic competition, and as an example, in order to understand basically how this market works, we can think about the book industry. When you try to buy a new book, definitely you'll find automatically a lot of authors, different choices, different kind of literature that you can purchase. Then, from the standpoint of the consumer, even if it's a book and you can say between quotation marks that this is the same good, definitely not. Because each book has a differentiation between them and the authors as well, right? So basically, what we can define at the end, even we are talking about the word of the book market, we are talking that the book is unique. Each book is unique, and actually, at the end, authors they are more kind of prize makers instead of prize takers. So what does it mean? Basically, it means that before in the perfect competition, what we found is like the producers they are basically price takers. It means that they cannot set a price. They need to follow the market price. But at that time, so we know that different authors, for example, most popular, they can charge higher prices than the other ones that they are kind of less popular. So for this reason, they are more like price makers. The idea is like remembered when we talked about perfect competition, we rely on the idea that the price is exactly equal to the marginal cost. What basically it we can infer that in the long run we can find that the benefits they will be kind of zero. But when you can fix a price higher than the marginal cost, it means that in the additional unit that you are producing, at the end of the day you are kind of earning this gap of the difference that what really cost to produce that last unit and the price that you are selling that. So the idea, the book market, we can consider that a different element or a different feature from different markets. What I'm trying to say is like the book market, it has definitely characteristics from the perfect competition because there are several producers, but on the other side we can consider itself as a I mean, they have like monopoly as well characteristics because they have power market. Okay, so this is kind of a mixture between these both market structures. So we talk about monopolistic competition. As I said, it is between these two kind of markets. The idea is like the chapter 14, we talk about a competitive market, and remember that we conclude that the price is exactly equal to the marginal cost. Then the long run benefits are zero, and we will find that the price at the end is equal to the average total cost. Then, when we talked in the chapter 15, remember that we talk about the monopoly that they use the market power to fix higher prices. So at the end, it's not social desirable because the monopoly they capture kind of the consumer surplus. So at the end, they take this consumer surplus to the companies, but furthermore, due to the less transaction, higher prices, and lower quantities, there is dead weight loss, this DWL for society. These kind of all transactions that they are lost because of the higher prices and consumers they don't have this willingness to pay, they will not pay for that. So at the end, we are here in point A and point B of the extreme of these the market structures. And the idea is like we know that in the normal life we cannot find easily this competitive market or a complete monopoly. So actually most of the markets they have elements of from both. But and the idea the they are not described totally by one of them. So we need to find a middle point between these 2 points where we can really define what's going on with the market that we are talking. So when we know that they have different characteristics from both markets, they make them at the end to the imperfect competition. So this is a new door that we are now opening where we can understand that there are different characteristics from those markets, more than monopoly and competitive market. So for example, another market structure that is between this point A and B is the oligopoly. We have few sellers, same product, and actually most of the time we can measure how concentrated or how the market power is present in the market because the concentration ratio which it is measured as the total output supplied by the four largest firms. It, most of the time we can consider that if it's higher than the 75% approximately, definitely it's an oligopoly because just few markets or few producers in the market they concentrate most of the market inside them. Definitely, we will see ahead that this should be analyzed throughout the strategy because we are kind of competing with other three, and we maybe can capture what is the movement of the other companies, and maybe we can follow a strategy in order to maybe cheat or in order maybe to cooperate with the other one, but the idea to lie on higher benefits for the firm. Um, then, when we talk about monopolistic competition, it has like four main features. The first one, there are many firms selling similar products. Take into account the word similar, not the same product. Each firm has a monopoly in the product makes. So it means that the author that, for example, my famous, I mean the Colombian most famous author in the world, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, with the 100 Years of Solitude, definitely is an unique one. So this is the only one who wrote this book. So for this reason, this was an author unique. So it was a monopolist for that product. The idea is like they compete over the same product in general. So this Gabriel Garcia Marquez competed or compete actually already passed away, but he competed for with other authors, okay? Because maybe sometimes if you buy one book, you will buy one of these one or buy one from another one, and maybe sometimes not both. And here we have the free entry and exit. So there are no barriers to entrance and to the exit. So we can think about almost most of the goods in the world, as for example books, DVDs, computer games, restaurants, piano lessons, cooking, clothing, etc. So at the end, uh, there is an important key point here because most of the time we say, okay, we are going to analyze that market. Okay, so we're going to analyze the market of cars. Uh, there are, I don't know, 30 brands. Is that a oligopoly or maybe monopolistic competition? So that's a really important point because it's so hard. There is no magic number you can establish that um, more than four you can consider that is not a oligopoly. So then for this reason we don't have like kind of a magic number to establish when we are talking about the quantity of producers. Then Here we understand, here we have um, where we can represent that. We have the number of firms, so we have like here two options: many firms, okay, this is the first like kind of branch. The other one firm and few firms. When we talk about one firm, we already saw in Monopoly, as example, tap water, cable TV, or a few firms, a oligopoly that we will see ahead in the next chapter, tennis balls, cigarettes, where there are just like few producers, and then when we talk about many firms, it depends on the type of products. If you have identical products, we're talking about perfect competition that we had a look on chapter 14, as for example wheat or milk, and the differentiated products that we are talking right now, as an example novels or movies. We know that this is a competition with differentiated products, and we're going to analyze what happened with the monopolistically competitive firm in the short run. So when we talk about just like a single firm in a monopolistic market, the idea is like they face a decision. Okay, so if they decide if it stays in the market or exit. So we have here a comparison with perfect competition because there is a large competitors, and here we will analyze if it's desirable from the standpoint of society. Then each firm, as we said before, is a monopoly due to they are unique and the production that good, and definitely they face a downward sloping demand curve. So remember that when we talk about a perfectly competitive market, they face an individual horizontal line. And why? Because remember, in the competitive market, they don't have any market power, which definitely it means that when you make any change on the price, you will not sell the same, and you don't have any incentive to sell lower than that price because you will say you will sell the same quantity as the price is determined by the market. Other story from the monopolistic competition side, because they face this downward slope demand curve, and they can charge higher prices and they will sell less, and when they charge lower prices they will sell more. Then the idea is like this feature makes the maximum condition where the marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, and the demand to determine the price is basically almost the same as monopoly. When we fix the quantity, which is determined when this last unit that you produce, they report as marginal way a zero benefit. So this should be the quantity that you will produce, and in order to determine the price that you will charge, you need to basically kind of put that quantity represented, plug into the demand curve to find out the price. Then basically, we'll see that in the short run, both structures, monopoly and monopolistic competition, are similar. Why? Because there is market power, because there is a down, it means that there is downward slope demand curve, and furthermore, they will define the price when the marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenue, and it should be determined by the demand, the price. Then the idea is we have two different charts here. Here is the behavior of a monopolistic competitive firm in the short run, when we have two scenarios. So we have the first one when there is a profit, and the second one when there are losses. So here we have the y-axis price. Naturally, we have here the quantity. Remember this U-shaped curve, which is the average total cost, which is the total cost over the quantity, okay, which is cut exactly in the minimum, the marginal cost. Why? Because remember, when the marginal cost is lower, it means that the average total cost will be lower. And when this is higher, the marginal cost, remember the average total cost should be increasing part. So here is the minimum. Here we have the demand, which is downward slope curve, and here we have the marginal revenue, okay, which is all the time like with a higher slope than the demand. Okay, then you will fix when the marginal cost equal to the marginal revenue, which should be this point, and this is the profit maximizing quantity, and you transport this one to the price. And then you will find here that at the end of the day, this should be the profits. Why? I'm going to try to say maybe something here to make a little bit more clear. So here is the price that you charge, okay? And here is the quantity, right? So price times the Q, this is the total revenue, okay? Because total revenue is equal to price times Q. Then you have here that this point is the average total cost, right? And remember, if you have the average total cost, which you define as this one, this is the average total cost, and you multiply by Q, at the end you will have what? You will have the total cost. Total cost. So then this one with the circle should be the total cost, okay? All that. So now you have here the total revenue minus the total cost should be the profit. Here is other story, because here this is the marginal and the cost, this one is higher than the demand. So then there are losses. So here we have the 2 points or 2 representations where we have one, which is a firm makes profit, and the other that makes losses. Okay. So here what happened in the long run? When we have the first situation when the market faces positive benefits, at the end of the day, more firms they have incentive in order to enter into the market. But at the end, more products will be in the market. Then at the end, for each firm, it reduces the demand of each firm on incumbent firms. So basically, firms that they were first, they see how demand curve shift to the left because it reduces, because it goes to another companies, and at the end there is a decline of profits, and then should be at the end zero benefits. The other part, we have the market face a negative profit. The idea, the most kind of rational behavior of that company is that they tend to leave the market. So then at the end, consumers have less products to consume, but they need to consume them. So all firms that stay in the market, they have a shift of demand curve to the right. So then these both mechanisms repeat until each firm makes zero profits. So what is really interesting here is, like, as you see in the short run, we can compare that more with the monopoly market, and when we are talking about long run, it should be more closer to the competitive market. Then the idea is like, as monopoly market, price exceeds marginal cost is provided by the downward slope curve. So the price is equal to average total cost, free entry market, the benefits equal to zero in the short run. So here what we have is the next. So let me see here. What we have here is like, at the end, the demand should be like kind of tangent to the average total cost, okay? So this should be the situation in the long run, and basically you will see here how the income or the total revenue is exactly equal to the total cost, is what happened in the long run, okay? So then we have here the monopolistically competitive firm, the long run, okay, when the price is equal to the average total cost, okay, And then this is the efficient scale. Okay, remember, efficient scale is when the average total cost is the minimum one, is exactly when it's cut by the marginal cost. And then here we have the quantity produced. Then it's what we call here, if they produce the efficient scale, should be this one. Then definitely should be an excess capacity, because the potential that the plant has to produce is higher. So there is an excessive capacity because you produce less. If otherwise the case, a competitive firm, remember the main important difference. This is this marginal sorry, this demand curve, which is a complete horizontal, and at the end the price is equal to the average total cost it makes to the minimum one, and it makes exactly where the benefits are still zero, but there is no excessive capacity. Then in the long run, so we will lie on P equal to average total cost. So there is a tangency between demand curve and the average total cost curve. It makes that they not produce where average total cost is the minimum one, as we saw in the previous chart. So this is the efficient scale of firm when there is the minimum one. So at the end, this is not done because not profitable. Producing with excess of capacity, so it means like they cannot produce more, because definitely there will be losses. So for this reason, this should be this excessive capacity. So at the end, there is this markup over marginal cost. So when there is this markup, we can think that the monopolistic competitive producer, the firm has some market power. Then the monopolistic firm always want to sell more at the same price. Competitive firm would not care. That's a really important difference. Remember that it doesn't matter if you sell 1, 2, 3 liters of milk, because anyway you will receive exactly the same for each one. So at the end, it doesn't care. But the other ones, you really care about that. So this is an important difference. So the competitive markets leads to efficient outcomes. What are efficient? Where the consumer and producer surplus, they are maximized. The situation monopolistic should be kind of subtle and harder to evaluate, because most of the times we cannot understand how is really the impact on society for this kind of markets. So there is an efficiency definitely, because the markup of price over marginal cost. So definitely should be like deadweight loss in somewhere. So to reduce that deadweight loss, policymakers should regulate each firm. It's almost impossible. You cannot regulate each firms when you have like a bunch of products in the market. It's like completely impossible. So at the end, the administrative burden should be overwhelming. So it's better to just like let it be what the market really can do. So at the end, when we talk about long run, we say that they face already zero profits, and if for the cost will make to have negative profits. Okay, so at the end, this is the equilibrium, the long run, and actually, it's important that we can see that like beyond that behavior of regulate it market, that or it firm, what we have here is like there will be externalities to enter into the market. So the product variety externality. So when you have more firms in the market, consumers, they have more options. So definitely the price should be lower. And for example, the business chilling externality. So the idea is like when you enter, they take customers from another firms, making negative externalities. So they are the both externalities for that monopolistic competitive market. So both externalities make difficult to improve market outcome in terms of social work. So then for this reason, this is the problem of welfare society, because we can see how there are different externalities that change or move the results of the market. There is an important part that we haven't analyzed yet, and this is the case regarding the advertising. So advertising, is definitely a natural feature of monopolistic competition because it makes part of the idea to increase income. So, for example, when we have this is an important part when we have highly differentiated products, they spend 10 or 20% in advertising, as razor blades, breakfast cereals, soft drinks. So they spend a lot on advertising. So then when we have like kind of industrial products, for example, drill presses or communication satellites, very little. And then homogeneous products as wheat, peanuts, crude oil spend nothing at all. So when we have more differentiation between one product, it means automatically that the firms they will definitely invest more on advertising. So there is a debate, interesting, over advertising because it's definitely controversial. The benefits for that. There is one, the critic one, advertising. They say that basically when they really start to advertise the the products, they start to manipulate consumer taste because at the end is not what really the consumer wants, is what the kind of the company wants that the consumer consume. So at the end, they say that maybe this should be like kind of manipulation. And then this is like kind of more psychological than informational because when you watch Super Bowl advertising, maybe sometimes they don't the ads they don't have nothing to do with the product by itself. So maybe for that reason is like more psychological. They convince you that you want it and you need it. Okay, not because that you really want. So, for example, a soft drink commercial with an image that a production can provide, that product can provide you, which is unbiased. So, for example, you have a soft drink and you are at the beach with gorgeous women, with music. You are happy. You are, in shape. You are handsome. So all this stuff. I mean, they don't say, okay, this drink is good. What they are trying to say, okay, you can drink that and you will become like them. So definitely it's kind of unbiased. But at the end, it tried to make the curve more inelastic, making large markup because the product is more desired. So because you see that and you really want to consume, and it makes like you don't care about the price and you don't care if the price is going high because you really want to taste that product. So basically, what they are trying to make is they are trying to make that curve more inelastic. The other side is the defense of advertising. So, for example, they say, okay, sometimes it provides information to customers. So, for example, it gives new products, locations, sales, more information where consumers they really can decide what they can use, and then it allows to make more efficient allocation of resources because you understand that this supermarket is going with sales with other products and you will buy them because it's cheaper, and then at the end the customer can take advantage of lower prices. We can understand advertising as a signal of quality. So when there is an ad, at the end, potential consumers see the advertisement as a signal of quality. So why you think that? As I said before, the consumer, I mean the advertising, most of the time they don't inform about the features of characteristic for that product, but at the end they show whatever. But at the end we will see how it really reflects as a signal of quality. So if we have two firm, imagine there is a firm Post and Kellogg, and you know that the price of that box of cereal should be $3 each box. And just to be make simple, we'll see that the margin cost equal to zero. So it means like each additional good that you produce, the cost should be is equal to zero. So then the profits for each cereal should be 3, and then there is a possibility to spend 10 million on advertisement. So then after long studies, you will verify that it will produce 1 million consumers. And then these 1 million consumers, if they like, they will consume more. And we assume that for 1 year they will consume, so 12 months. So then we have first the post decision. They already know that it tastes like shredded newspaper, is awful. It's really bad cereal. So then when the consumer will buy, even the advertise is like the best among the best, the consumer just will try one and then they will know more. So this should be not profitable because should be like 3 million for the first consumption, and then the cost should be 10 million. So the remaining or the benefits negative one should be minus $7 million. So Kellogg's decision, we know that this is a really great product, this is a really good one. So when they invest on that advertise, they don't invest just because yes, they invest because each person will buy for 12 months. So at the end 12 months times 3, the price of the box should be 36 million sales minus 10 should be 26 millions of profits. So then definitely um, they will produce. So at the end, consumers perceive the science. Okay, they are producing during the prime time, of that TV shows. This product, it should be good. I mean, they will not advertise with these expensive factors, expensive location and whatever, because it's bad product. So this is a signal. Then the part the brand names, so we can divide the market between two firms, so widely recognized brands and others sell just generic substitutes. So the idea is like the recognized products spend more in advertising than the price, and the price is higher naturally, and there are critics for that. So because they say, okay, brand names produce the consumer perceive differences where it does not exist. So they say, okay, they induce you, convince you to buy that, but at the end of the day, it's not like more or better than the generic one. So then it should be that these brand names try to make you think irrational in an irrational way. So then the other one is in favor because they say, okay, when you have a brand name, you have a logo or a name, and you say, I don't want to go more for that. I know that this is this brand and this is like a guarantee. So for example, when you are in a noun town comparison with between a McDonald's local restaurant, imagine that you really don't know how the food is there and you're just like driving through and you see a McDonald's and you see a local restaurant. Maybe a local restaurant the quality is like better, cheaper, but because you are there, you don't want to take a risk and you say, okay, this is the brand name, I know how the hamburger tastes. It's not the best, but it should be okay. Okay, so then conclusion, we have like monopolistic competition, a hybrid definitely between monopoly and perfect competition. This is considered as imperfect market because there is not perfect information. There are signals as the advertisement, and then it makes difficult to public policy because you need to regulate not all the market, but you need to regulate almost each firm, which the administrative burden is kind of high. Just to take into account this final chart, we have here the perfect competition. We have here the characteristic, which is marginal revenue equal to margin cost, exactly equal. Okay, and they try to maximize profits. Then in the long run, they perceive benefits. Here we have the differences. The perfect competition is price taker. The other one, they have power in the market. Okay, then at the end, because of that, the price is equal to marginal cost. Here the price is higher to marginal cost. And then the producer's welfare maximizes level of output. The welfare is the only one that maximizes the consumer and producer surplus. And here now, because it has more benefits for the producer. Here we have many many producers, just one. Here we have entry in the long run, we have yes, yes, no. Monopoly, it has barriers to the entry, and can earn economic profit in the long run, no, no, just the monopoly. Okay, that was all. I guess that you already grasped the idea of the monopolistic competition. I will post as usual the exercises, and that's all. Thank you so much for this video. See you the next one. Bye bye.